So good afternoon, everybody, or good morning. I guess it's still morning here in Ohio. Thank you for joining the OSU Leadership Center for today's webinar. And we are recording this session and we'll be uploading it to the YouTube channel so it can be widely viewed. You will receive an email and an evaluation with a link and the evaluation later today. My name is Beth Flynn, and I am a program specialist for the Ohio State University Leadership Center. I'm very proud to tell you that I'm getting ready to celebrate my 22nd anniversary of working for the OSU Leadership Center. I love my job. I can't believe that I get paid to do what I absolutely love to do. I hope you feel the same way about your job. And I was only going to stay 2 years, and I can't believe that 22 years has now gone by. Today, we're going to be talking about maintaining a positive attitude during COVID-19. And I'd like to introduce you to Emma Newell. And Emma is moderating the session, and she's our intern extraordinaire. She's like the best ever. So I'm very glad to have Emma. She will be monitoring the chat box during the session. So as you have questions, please leave them in the chat box, and Emma will ask them on your behalf at the end of our session today. So as we talk about maintaining a positive attitude, you all know we're living in very unprecedented times. Never before have I ever been asked to shelter at home. And we're living in a time of great uncertainty, and that can play that has a lot to do with our attitude. And a lot of people are feeling unrest at this time. And so it's very important to focus on maintaining a positive attitude during this. And so during our session today, I'm going to be sharing some ideas and tips with you for how to maintain a positive attitude during this COVID-19. So how are you doing? How have you been feeling? I know that there's so many of you, we can't do a really good check-in, but think about that. As you look at this definition of what attitude really is, are you maintaining a positive attitude? Attitude is a choice. We can choose what our attitude is. So no matter how you're feeling right now, you can change your attitude. And so in your handout, and if you didn't receive the handout, I will send it again when we send out the link for the YouTube link for this webinar. There is a checklist, and what I do with that checklist is I pull it out and I give myself a time frame, and I say, how have I been doing? And I answer the questions based on that time frame. So we're not going to pause and take time for you to go through the checklist now. You can do that at a later time when you want to reflect on this work on the webinar and maintaining a positive attitude. So yesterday, as I prepared the final preparations for today's webinar, I pulled that out and I did that. I assessed myself for how I've been doing since I've been asked to shelter at home. And so it's just a way of maintaining a positive attitude and doing that attitude check so we can remain positive through all that we're going through. And as we spend our time together, these are the topics that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to talk about assuming a positive intent, to fake it until you make it on those days when you're just not feeling that positive attitude. The whole concept of have to versus get to, maintaining an attitude of gratitude in all that we do, change it when all else fails. How can we change our perspective about the situation? And finally, we'll talk about helping others as a way of staying positive. And so as I share this information with you, I'd like you to be thinking about what are your ideas and tips for maintaining a positive attitude during this time of uncertainty. And at the end, I'm going to share a story. And when I do, I'm going to ask you to share in the chat box how those tips and ideas, and then we can share them with everybody, and it will help us through this time. So let's start off with talking about assuming a positive intent. And assuming positive intent, it's just means that consciously we think about and assume that people are operating under the best of their ability. and they're acting in the best interest of our organization and of each other. And so when we think about that, when we assume positive intent, it's especially important now. And we need to give ourselves and others a lot of grace and assume that when things happen that people are assuming positive intent. And so when you think about it, we all have situations that happen to us. And so if we're assuming positive intent, it's going to have much different results than if you're assuming negative intent. And so I use this example a lot. I'm going to focus on this as a Zoom. I usually talk about meeting somebody for lunch. So yesterday I was supposed to meet with a colleague, and I'll just name her Jane Doe, just to keep everybody anonymous. And we had a Zoom meeting scheduled and Jane never logged in. And so if I assume negative or positive intent, I'm going to have different beliefs and assumptions. So because Jane didn't log into the Zoom meeting, when I'm assuming positive intent, it could be many of us, because I've seen this come up in the chat box already, that people your internet's unstable. You may not have access to the internet because everybody else is a member of whatever company that you're using for your internet service, they may be having technical difficulties. This happens to me quite a bit, and maybe I had the wrong date and time written down. It was my mistake, not hers. So we don't know what happened. So it depends on what our beliefs are. So let's believe that it's a positive intent and that it was well-meaning. So because I'm assuming positive intent, I'm not going to go talk about Jane behind her back or cut her down or be rude to her. I'm going to seek understanding. And so I'm going to find out what went wrong. Why weren't we able to connect with each other? And so by my behavior, it's going to affect our results. And so rather than having negative results, we're going to have positive results, because probably I'm going to find out that maybe I wrote the time down wrong, or there was some kind of an issue. And so because I'm assuming positive intent, the results are going to be much more positive. We're not going to have to, last week's webinar was dealing with conflict. We're not going to have conflict because we've listened for understanding with each other. We're going to come up with some creative solutions so it doesn't happen again. And there's just going to be more trust built. And that's what this is all about. So when you're dealing with things, a way of maintaining a positive attitude is always to assume positive intent. And then we move on to the theory of fake it till you make it. And I don't know how many of you have used this before, but I learned this early from my mentor. Her name is Cece, and so Cece always taught me to fake it till you make it. So on those days when you're not feeling it, when you act happy, you're going to be happy. And that's what this whole theory is, that if you behave like the person you want to become, that you will become it. So if you want to feel happy, act happy. If you want to feel positive, act in a positive manner. That's all it's about. And so I shared this a few years ago at a conference about fake it till you make it. This wise woman in the audience raised her hand and said to me, how about instead of fake it until you make it, you fake it until you become it? And so when you think about it, yes, our attitude is a choice. And when we're not feeling it, if we act positive, we are going to get more positivity. And so I'd like to show you a video now. And in this video, it's a Huggies commercial. And you talk about a positive attitude. Let's watch this commercial. I really enjoy that video, and so many of you will be humming or whistling. Don't worry, be happy the rest of the day, and I apologize. And so, as you can see in this Brian Tracy quote, we don't have control about what happens to us, but we do have the ability to choose how we're going to react to the situation. And yes, a lot of us don't have a lot of control. We've been forced to work from home, or if you're considered an essential employee, you're being asked to, put your life at risk and go to work every day. And so thank you for everybody who's on here who is an essential worker. We really appreciate you doing that. But in controlling how we react to the situation, we can choose to see the positive. Yes, give ourselves some time, because we can't be positive every day. Positivity is one of my strengths from the Clifton Strengths Finder. And so, yes, I can normally stay very positive, but as I've been on my coach, I'm a certified Gallup strengths coach, and in my coaching blogs, as I'm working with my fellow coaches, I'm seeing a lot of people who say, I have positivity as a strength, and I feel this pressure to be positive all the time, and you can't. So we do have to, when things happen, give yourself a time limit, but we can fake it until we make it when we need to. I know that I always just put on happy music when I need to change my attitude, to fake it till I can make it. And then we move on to the have to versus get to. And I don't know if many of you are familiar with Jon Gordon. He's a author and speaker. He's written quite a few books on positive attitude. He lost his job in the internet crash, or the technology recession, and changed and became a very well-known author and speaker. And it's all about being positive. And he shares this concept of have to versus get to, and this has made a huge impact on my life, and I share this quite a bit. But when I think about it, I never knew that changing two words can change your life. And so, think about this. These two words, get to versus have to, can change your whole day. And it's all about enhancing your joy, productivity, performance, and changing your complaining voice to an appreciative heart. So when you think about it, instead of saying, I have to stay home and stay in place because of this pandemic, I get to stay home. There's a lot of people who have to go out every day and work and be with the general public, and I'm safe at home, so I get to stay home. Tonight is trash night for me. Instead of saying I have to take the trash out, I get to take the trash out. My city provides trash services that is part of my water bill. So somebody is picking up my trash, and there's a lot of people who have to find their own. Or you have to go to the grocery store. Instead of having to go to the grocery store because you're out of food, you get to go to the grocery store for food, because there's a lot of people who are going hungry right now as they're dealing with unemployment and other uncertainty during this pandemic. And so, sometimes we feel like we're imprisoned, or that we don't have a choice, but we do. And so we can choose our attitude and actions. And so instead of thinking when you have to do something, it's you get to do something. So those of you who are struggling with homeschooling, you don't have to do it, you get to do it, that your kids are home with you. So when you think about it, when you say I have to, replace that with I get to. And so it will change the way you look at things. And as I share this Jon Gordon quote with you, we just have to realize that every day is a gift. And there's a lot of people who don't have that gift. Didn't wake up this morning and didn't have that gift, and how lucky we are to be alive. And so it's that we get to live our lives, and we get to have a job when others are unemployed. We get to interact with our employees and our customers and make a difference in their lives through a product, a service, a word of encouragement. Is that we get to be with our coworkers when we can. A lot of times right now it's using Zoom. And so we have the opportunity every day to look at the day as a gift, that we get to do things rather than that we have to do things. And it will change your perspective forever, trust me. When we talk about having an attitude of gratitude, it just means making a habit of expressing thankfulness and appreciation for everything that's in your life. Because when you focus, research shows that you get what you focus on. So when you focus on what's going right in your life, or for those things that you have in your life rather than what you don't have in your life, you're going to get more of that. So when you focus on the positive, you'll get more positive. And so I want to share a story with you. This happened, I teach a workshop, it's called Positive Leadership. And I had a gentleman who was a participant in a workshop once, and when we were talking about using an attitude of gratitude as a way of being a positive leader, he shared this story with me, and it has had a great impact on my life. And he said, I used to fall asleep every night watching the news. And as I watched the news, it was very depressing to me because all they talk about is bad news. And I would wake up in the morning and I would not be very happy. I would feel grumpy and not positive. And he said, I stopped watching the news, and as I fell asleep every night, I focused on what I was grateful for that happened that day. And he said, many days I had many things to be happy for and grateful for. And I was thankful for all those wonderful accomplishments that I had gotten done through the day. Other days, if I wasn't having such a good day, I focused on the simple things that I had in my life. I have a bed to sleep in. I have a house for shelter. I have food to eat. I have clean water to drink and clean air to breathe. And he said, it totally changed my life. And then he looked around the room at all of us and he said, what if you woke up tomorrow and all you had in your life was what you were thankful for today? And I have to tell you, that statement changed my life. And now I try to, every night as I fall asleep, I do try to think about everything that I'm thankful for. I try to remember everything possible that I could be thankful for, because I think about what he said at that workshop. And yes, we do have a lot to be grateful for. And so as you look at this Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, think about what you're thankful for. When I am waiting in line, I tend to be a little bit impatient. If I get stuck at a traffic light, that makes me a little bit impatient. And so I've changed my perspective. And so when I get stuck at a traffic light, or if I'm stuck waiting in line someplace, I start thinking about what I'm grateful for. And I have to think of at least 5 things, and it will make the time go faster, and it helps me focus on the good things so I can maintain a positive attitude in my life. And so many of you, this is in your handout. This is just a different way of, you can list in this circle, in the lines of the circle. You can list the things that you're thankful for. Many of you may be like me and have a gratitude journal. And I like this journal. My sister gives me one every year for Christmas. Her oncologist told her that everybody needs to keep a gratitude journal and for thankful for everything they have. And you write down at least 3 things every day that you're thankful for, and at the end of the week, you circle the things that you're the most grateful for. But I want to read to you this Melody Beattie quote, and it's, gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. And I'm a quote junkie, so it makes it even more special that I have quotes every day to look at too, as I think of my gratitude journal. So in addition to being grateful for what you have, think about the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And in the movie It's a Wonderful Life, people had the opportunity to thank George Bailey for all that he did for them. So reach out to people who've made an impact in your life and thank them and share what they have done. It's just another way of showing gratitude. And then we come to our last topic that I'm going to be sharing with you. And so it's all about helping others. And Winston Churchill stated that we make a living by what we get, we make a life by what we give. And when you're not feeling it and you want to maintain, you want to get a positive attitude back, do something for somebody else. It doesn't have to be huge, but studies show that by helping others, we have a longer life. It can lower your blood pressure. It can help ease that we have less depression, and it can lower your stress and bring you greater happiness. So think about what you can do to help others. And as you think about it, it doesn't have to be anything grand. It can be smiling at somebody, letting somebody go ahead of you in line, or when we're driving back and forth to work, letting somebody merge ahead of you in traffic, holding the door for somebody. I know that one thing that I do is if I'm going through a drive-through, I pay for the person's meal behind me or drink. And I don't do it because to be wonderful. I do it because somebody did that for me one day when I was not having a good day. And they had no idea that I was stressed, and that made my day. So when I need an attitude booster, I go through a drive-through and I cannot make eye contact with that person or anything. And I just hope that I randomly, through that random act of kindness, have made their day. And it's because somebody did it for me. It's just all about leaving a positive legacy wherever you are. And I forgot this one, change your perspective. And so really the way we view our life has a lot to do with our attitude. And so I'm going to share this short story with you and think about your perspective of how you're viewing these times of uncertainty. There are 3 men out in the field tilling the soil. A person passed by and stopped and asked the first man, "What are you doing?" The man answered, "I'm tilling the soil." The curious stranger turned to the second man, asking him the same question. Without hesitation, he answered, "What am I doing? I'm earning a living." When he finally got the third man's attention and asked what he was doing, the tiller paused, smiled, and responded, "I'm feeding the community." While all 3 worked the same amount of time in the same field, doing the same work, the first person's work seemed longer than the second man's days. The third man loved his work so much he wasn't aware of the time. So near the end of their lives, the first man thought his whole lifetime work was meaningless. The second man said he was able to feed his family through his work. But the third man felt very peaceful because he lived an inspired life by making this world a better place. And yet they were all doing the same work. It's a matter of perspective. And so we're all familiar, I think that many of us are familiar with Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor. And he wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning. And in this book, he discusses identifying your purpose in life and something that you feel positively about, and then imagining what that outcome is going to be. And that is how he survived living in a concentration camp. And so having a positive attitude doesn't mean that we ignore our life's troubles. It just means that we're optimistic about it and know that things are going to turn out. And so it's just a matter of changing our perspective. So think about a kaleidoscope and how you can move the kaleidoscope and you see things from different angles. And, and as Viktor Frankl says, that we always have the ability to choose our attitude. So as we begin to wrap up our time together, I like to ask you, as I read this story to you, in the chat box to share your ideas and what you're doing to maintain a positive attitude during these times of uncertainty. And I'm going to share the story with you. It's called Your Life is in Your Hands. High on a hilltop overlooking a beautiful city, there lived a wise old woman. The local children were taught to seek her guidance and to respect her teachings. One day, 2 girls devised a plan to confuse the woman. They caught a small bird and they headed for the hilltop. As they approached the seated figure, one of the girls held the little bird cupped in her hands. "Wise old woman," the girl said, "can you tell me if the bird I have in my hands is dead or alive?" The woman gazed silently at the two girls and then said, "If I tell you the bird is alive, you will close your hands and crush the life from it. If I tell you the bird is dead, you will open your hands and it will fly away to freedom. In your hands, you hold the power of life and death. You have the power to choose destruction and the end of a spirit in a song, or you can choose to free the bird so it has a future with all its potential. You are wise to know that you can choose between life and death. If you allow my answer to determine whether the bird lives or dies, you will have given away your power. You will also have given away your responsibility to make the correct choice and to rejoice in your own strength and wisdom." And just like these children in the story, your life is in your hands. How you handle these times of uncertainty, this pandemic, COVID-19, is up to you. It is your choice if you're going to face this with a positive attitude or not. What are you going to choose? I'm going to turn this over to Emma, and Emma's going to share your questions with you. I see that people are sharing ideas, and I'm very grateful for that, and we will be sharing that when we send out the link to the YouTube. So Emma?
Yeah, we've had a lot of really great comments here and sharing of ideas. And so make sure that everyone takes a look at those to be further inspired. As for questions go, we had a question about if the slides will be available and if we are able to use the PDF handouts and share those amongst coworkers and friends.
You feel free to share the handouts. We don't usually share our PowerPoints. It was just more of a, everything that's in the handout is in the, or everything that's on the screen was in the handout. If you have any questions about that and want to use a lot of this for a talk, just send me an email and I'll work with you on that. Thank you. I think that this is a very important topic right now. We're all struggling, and so we can help each other through these times. Feel free to share the handout with anybody you'd like to.
And we had another question about if the recording will be shared. Yes, it will be. It'll be posted on the link on our website. You will receive an email with the link, and it'll be posted on our YouTube page. Again, if you have further questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Right now, I don't see any further questions. So thank you so much, Beth.
My pleasure. Well, this concludes our session today. And once again, this presentation will be made available on our YouTube channel, and you'll be getting an email with that link in it. And I hope to see you at future webinars, and I encourage you to register for additional sessions. We're continuing to add. And if you are interested in adding to your registration, please see our website for instructions for how to change your registration to add more webinars. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good day. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for any current updates. And Emma is sharing lots of good information on our social media. So you'll have extra quotes and tips for dealing with these times of uncertainty. Thank you, and have a good day, everybody.